So today I'm going to talk about open source. So an introduction to open source. Most technology now is considered open source, or at least contains open source software. The image to the right shows just how this happens. You have open music, such as Spotify, Apple Music. You have open hardware, open government, open access, such as Google Drive, open cloud. There are many different ways that open source software has integrated itself into today's society. And then devices nowadays are valued way more than ever. This means that people are using their devices to conduct their everyday lives, and having open source software definitely helps this process. So what is open source software? Open source software is something that people can modify and share, and then the design of the software is publicly accessible. This being said, the programmers are able to create something for people to use, and by making it publicly accessible, non-programmers are able to reap the benefits of what these programs have to offer. So what does open source entail? It entails open source products and projects such as Firefox, Google Chrome. It allows for collaborative participation amongst many different programmers, and all that, and it allows for rapid prototyping. So what is source code? Source code is not evident when you look at the software. You're not going to see coding when you look at the internet or at your computer. It's what basically is the foundation of all the programs you use, and they're set up so the programmers are able to alter and change what they want, and then the people that are using the program don't have to deal with it, but they have people that are updating it for them, and they don't have to worry about that. So then there are 4 reasons why people prefer open source systems. The first is control. The second is training. The third is security. And the fourth is stability. Control is important because it allows for users to have more control over their software. And then training is important because it allows programmers to constantly practice coding and creating applications and programs that are useful for the public and stuff like that. And then security is important because users view open source software as much more secure and stable. And then stability is important because open source software tends to last longer. So how are people affected by open source? There's users, developers, businesses, nonprofit organizations, educators, and governments. All of these things are all impacted by open source systems. Users are impacted because when programmers create applications stuff, such as the internet, Google Chrome, Firefox, users are able to reap the benefits of that. They are able to access whatever they want online, and without having to worry about modifying what's going on, but they're able to publicly access that without having to have a code to get in or anything. Then developers are affected by open source because they're able to constantly alter and change what they want their software to look like and function like. And then all these other things are also definitely affected by open source. So there are some examples of open source systems in today's society. These include Firefox, Google Chrome, OpenOffice, and Android. All these places are considered places where everything is publicly accessible and can be modified or changed, but for the most part, everything it can be public if you want it, it can be private if you want it, but for the most part, these are designated for public access and for users to be able to gain information however they choose. So how does open source affect programmers and non-programmers? So programmers are the ones who set up the applications and can change and alter things throughout. And then non-programmers are the ones that and an example is the internet. The internet, obviously the creators, including Vint Cerf, he and his partners created something. They coded it, and by doing that, they created something that was evolutionary and basically revolutionary. Pardon. And it is something that we've benefited from for over 20 years. It's something that by the programmers doing that work and being able to allow people to access that from wherever they are, it's definitely changed how we live our lives. So the internet, as I said earlier, was made up of programmers who set it up, and then nowadays people globally have access to it, and it's constantly getting new updates. It's constantly getting new security updates, anything, and all people have to do is just worry about being able to access it, really, and everything's pretty much publicly accessible with it. So then the opposite of open source is closed source. Closed sources restrict users from gaining access to information. You're not able to access the source codes in a closed source, unlike open source systems. So open source software is not always free. This is definitely a common misconception, and programmers can force people to pay as well. So the open source initiative was something that promotes the use of open source software throughout the world. And it was founded in 1998 by Bruce Perens and Eric S. Raymond. And this has done a lot to help out with promoting it, to endorsing it, and really getting users and programmers all over the world to adapt to the open source software revolution and really get on board with what's going on. So in summary, open source software allows everyone access to anything on the internet, Firefox, Chrome, and programmers can always change and alter these programs using their source code, and non-programmers definitely reap the benefits of what the programmers do. And it's definitely something that has evolved recently, and it's something that is going to continue to grow. And here's my works cited.